Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. At a news conference in Moscow, Vladimir Putin has expressed his support for a ceasefire, however, with conditions attached. And the comments come as Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff is in Moscow for high-stakes discussions on the ceasefire plan, signaling a shift in diplomatic efforts. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has pointed to Russia's lack of an official response as evidence of its reluctance to pursue peace. Now, this comes as the Kremlin claims to be in the final phases of its operation to secure territory in Kursk, following President Putin's surprise visit to the region. Now, to discuss it all further and analyze it, I'm joined by Anastasia Pociumban, a research fellow at German Council on Foreign Relations. Good to have you with us. So I just want to give you the question straight away. I mean, what's a discussion we're going to have here? But the first reaction to Vladimir Putin's words here on the ceasefire, is this now the moment things change? How do you interpret his words?
Hi, Sasha, and thank you very much for having me. Well, first of all, I think it's nothing new what Vladimir Putin said. This is an old Russian strategy. He said he overall agree, but and I think what could have been expected, Russia pursues a maximalist agenda and starts with very high demands, basically asking for Ukrainian capitulation and kind of promises nothing in return. So I think what we expected also is that Russia is not actually interested in a deal. It's interested to put these conditions that Ukraine would not be able to accept. So I think from the beginning, this is kind of a non-starter.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're calling it a non-starter. Nevertheless, I think in the last few hours, we've had a lot of different messaging and signaling. We have, on the one hand, before Putin made that announcement in Moscow with Lukashenko, a close advisor to the Kremlin, essentially calling it, rejecting this 30-day ceasefire proposal, saying that it gives Russia nothing. Now we've had this press conference. So a lot of mixed signals. Mr. Witkoff from the United States is due to meet with Russian authorities today in the evening. So where is the truth in all this, and what do you think is next in all this?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what I meant also by non-starter, it means that Russia is already from the beginning, not kind of open to negotiations. The conditions Russia presented, they are old, and basically claiming influence over Ukraine and putting Ukraine into a position where if Russia further attacks, a bit later, Ukraine won't be able to defend itself. But indeed, you are right, there has been a lot of development, and there also have been conflicting messages from the US administration. So on the one hand, there is an expectation that Russia will ally with US, and to me it seems that also President Trump is more interested in pursuing a deal rather than in Ukraine. So I think we have now two scenarios: either US will offer more support to Ukraine and basically putting more pressure on Russia, or either US will now align even more with Russia and put more pressure on Ukraine, therefore crushing Ukraine, basically. So I think from both sides, we see from Russia's hope is that they can convince President Trump that they are open for negotiations and that they are an ally, and basically pursue its agenda on for Ukrainian territorial concession, for no security guarantees. I mean, we know the drill, I think. And I think on Ukraine side, the hope is that US will not be able to have a meaningful partnership with Russia. And I think for US, it's very important to get Russia as an ally against China. But I see this as a challenge, because Russia is quite aligned at the moment with China, and they speak a similar language, and they have a very deep economic cooperation. So I think this also can be an underestimation from the American side.
Mm-hmm. And also, we saw images today of Vladimir Putin also in the Kursk region. First time he's visited that area since the Ukrainians made those incursions some time ago. I mean, this was seen by some maybe as a kind of bargaining chip that the Ukrainians had. It seems that they're being pushed out more and more. What's the significance in your mind of Putin's visit there on the ground? And what does this mean for any potential discussions talking about Kursk or any other kind of ceasefire?
Indeed, and I think we've all noticed that also Putin's outfit. He was not wearing a suit during this visit, but it is a significant moment also for Russia. It's seen to show that they have the upper hand and that they are winning basically the war. I mean, from their side. So on Russian side, there are no real incentives to stop the fight, and they would be interested to continue because they are winning territories. They also said that they would not just let the soldiers leave, but they would take prisoners of the war from Ukrainian soldiers in Kursk. So for me, this just to also show this signal, this message of power. And of course, also in relations with the US, it will also make it easier to kind of negotiate because now Kursk is not on the table.
Mm-hmm. I'm also curious because we've also have the statement from the former U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine, Mr. Kurt Volker. He says that Russia is unlikely to take part in ceasefire talks in good faith. What do you make of those words and what could be next? I mean, Trump has guaranteed that Russia will come to the table. How do we interpret all that?
I absolutely agree with Ambassador Volker. I think what we've seen is that Russia just demands, and its demands are simply not possible for Ukraine. So we see from the beginning no willingness to really negotiate. So now I think the question is really what will be the US response to this? And we talked a bit about this earlier, right? Like US can either pressure Russia more or US can pressure Ukraine. But on the other hand, I think the message is also clear from the Russian side that they will go as long as it takes us at the moment, or as long as it takes, but at the moment they see it as winning the war. So they are not willing to compromise on anything.
Mm-hmm. No compromise, but nevertheless, I mean, it's been a tough last week and more for Ukraine. I mean, very much the U.S. dropping everything from support to, remember that those scenes at the White House as well with Mr. Zelensky. But right now it seems that the pendulum is a little bit shifting now. Is this something that's going to carry on? I know it's a very volatile situation, but what do you think is next now? Is Trump going to pressure Putin?
I think we might also expect a meeting between Trump and Putin, for instance, to also see how far. I think Trump will try to get a deal. That would be my expectation. And then the question would be whether they manage to agree on this deal. So I would see that perhaps then there will be maybe a meeting between them, a meeting in person, and then trying to see what results from that and what can be the deal, and further impose them to. However, should there be no deal, that it also can. I mean, we've seen it in the past. It also can happen that that Trump can take a tougher stance on the U.S. But I think it's it's really a bit hard to predict. You know, like one day we expect we have one analysis and then things quickly change. But I basically see these two kind of options from the Trump administration. Either, you know, first they will try to get a deal with Russia, and then perhaps try to see what's possible from the Ukrainian side. And then there are the avenue where he will align more with Russia or he will support Ukraine.
Right.
But I think what's clear for the EU, we did not talk so much about it, but I think it's clear that the EU cannot really rely on the US support anymore, and then on the US as a security guarantor. So the recent developments also in increasing EU's defense spending, it also means that the EU has to become a security actor, which has not been what he was planned for in the beginning.
Exactly. So there are many, many forces here, dynamic indeed, an unpredictable time, but one that is going to define our time. We'll have to close it there, I'm afraid. Anastasia Pociumban, thank you so much for all your time and insights today.
Thank you, Sasha.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay tuned right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.